Hi guys, welcome back to the shop. Today we're getting back on the HS1. We're going to hopefully finish up the lower end. I've got to file the clutch basket that is, to try to remove as much as I can. You don't need to remove them all, but you just need to remove enough so that the plates will slide and not get hung up. So we're going to do that. We're going to get the oil pump in, finish up getting the clutch in, get the shifter adjusted, all that kind of stuff, and hopefully we can get it all put together today, and then we'll just be waiting on boring the cylinders. So let's get to it. Yeah, I just want to show you here. I've got the basket in my vise. I've got my copper jaws, and I've just got it against the gear back here and a block of wood up front, and that way I can get my file in here and try to keep it some sensibility to what I'm doing here. It's not going to be completely straight unless you set it up somehow in a milling machine or something, but it's just not worth that much effort. This is going to make a marked improvement, and you're not going to go through all the expense of setting one up and trying to get it all perfect. This will do it. And I think you can see here what we're after. We're just trying to get these grooves removed and kind of flatten that out. Now the opposite side is not going to be as severe, but you need to try to take off about the same amount of metal over here as over here. That way it keeps everything pretty square and pretty straight. But like I say, it's not going to be perfect, but this will improve your clutch, no doubt about it. Okay, so just kind of lay your file in here flat. This is just a bastard file. A mill bastard is what it is. And you just don't want a coarse one. And what I do is I just lay that in here like this. Sometimes if you have the tendency to get into this, you might want to tape it up a little bit. I think I'm doing okay here. But you want to put your pressure right here, and not a lot of pressure. And this end here, all we're doing is moving it. And yes, this is going to load your file up. So after you file a little bit, you'll have some loading. Just take your file card and go ahead and clean that up. Just get it out of there before it gets in there permanently and stays. And then just go at it again. Now if you pick that up every time like you normally would use a file like this, it's just not going to stay straight on you, and you're going to go off the edges or whatever here. So this is really the best way I've found anyway to do it. And this way I'm keeping about the same pressure on, and it should affect one side just about as much as the other. And you can see here that we're starting to remove those wear slots, and you can see over here that I'm removing about the same amount of metal. And that's what you want to do. You want to try to keep it as even as you can. And I think I'm going to go with that. I'm just kind of trying to remove the majority of that, and if there's a little left, that's okay. You just try to do the best you can without removing too much. Okay, once you've got that how you want it, just take you a small file then and just round off those corners. Well, I say when you get done with it, get it the way you want it. Make sure you really wash it good. Get those filings out of there. out of the gear. You may not think they're there, but they are. Okay, let's get this case built up. That's kind of our next thing we need to do here. Got a new O-ring for our tack drive. It's going to go right here. Okay. I've got this all cleaned up already. Okay, we've got our drive gear here. That's just held in with your little clamp here. Okay, now we've got our oil pump drive. It goes through next. We've already got our new seal in. Let's get some lube on it. And this is how it goes in. Goes in. We're trying to keep the oil that's in here from going out. So the open end needs to come into here. Just kind of rotate it as you push. Okay, once you get your pin in there, you need to line it up with the groove back here. If it doesn't go all the way down, that means your pin is off to one side or something. There it is. Okay, we've got a external tooth lock washer goes on there, and then our nut. The easiest way I've found to tighten those is to put a glove on. It will, that, you think that plastic gear won't get you? It will. And I just hit it with my impact a little, just a little bit, not a lot. Yeah, guess I don't have the right one there. Now that thing will eat you alive if you try to hold that with your bare fingers. And again, I like, some people disagree with me, but I like to put grease on both sides of my gasket because those are really tough to try to scrape off under there. And this one wasn't too bad as oil pump gaskets go, but it wasn't fun. You've got to try to get down inside there to do that, and it's just not that easy. Okay. And we've cleaned up the pump surface there. And I've got all my gaskets removed from here. They were the old paper ones. And we got a couple screws that hold that in. Remember, the pump was broken. This is another thing I'd gotten from the guy in Wyoming was the new pump. Just about all the replacement parts I needed came from there. And make sure this isn't dragging. Okay guys, had to pull this pump back out because it's just easier to put the lines on that way. And really need to show you this anyway. Each one of the lines that come out of the pump, discharge, will have a ball, and that ball needs to be in there. And they will also have a little spring, and that needs to go in there. And of course we've got our new copper washers here. And they're pretty proud of these. I believe they're $5 and something a piece. But the good thing is you probably never need another one. Okay, so I really like to have that in there, but it's going to fall out if I do it this way, I think. Well, looks like I got it. Got to be very careful with these lines. Now leave everything loose. My gasket's still in place down there. Just popped up a little bit. Okay. Let's go ahead and see if we can get that back in there. And get our lines to come through too. They really will only go in one way, but you've kind of got to figure that one way out. And we've, of course, got to get our gear to line up. There it is. You just kind of turn it on the back side while you're trying to line it up. And go ahead and get your screws back in. These are 15 millimeter long screws. It's the only ones like that, but if you need to know a dimension, that's it. And then we've got to get the grommet in. And you're just kind of on your own here. Hopefully it's not hard. Kind of peel it apart. This one really is pretty flexible still. It's just kind of getting it in there, because you got two of them you're trying to do. Okay, that should do it. And then of course your feed line from the pump, or from the tank, goes through here and then down to here. So that's kind of a chore getting these things in, but you got to do it before you put the side cover on, because you've got to. It would be impossible to do without. Okay, here's where we need the washer. It's behind this drive gear, and you can see that this is the back side of this gear is right up against the case. So that's not going to work. We've got to have that offset, just whatever the thickness of the washer is, and then another washer goes here. And let's see. Here's the gear. Here's the pin. You've got one washer here, and then the other one here. And the thing that's good about these books is that it gives you the exact size of that washer or shim. It's going to be 10.2 ID, 16 OD, 1 millimeter thick. So if you've got a lathe, you can turn them out. Rarely does this kind of information show up in the on the computer. See, it even gives you the size of the O-rings. So you can just go to like MasterCar and order a 1.8 by 13. You don't have to get the $5 and $10 O-rings from Yamaha, because they're getting them from McMaster too. But anyhow, it's a good resource. So we'll see if we can turn us a couple of shims out. I don't have the shim stock that's real close, so I'm going to have to turn quite a bit down off of the outside. Uh, 1603, I guess. That's good enough. Close enough to girls I go with. Okay, 10.2 millimeter. I've got a 10.24. That's 13 30 seconds. Yeah, 13 30 seconds. That's also pretty close, so we'll use that one. I'm going to just make however many I can get out of this that I've got. Those are missing a lot of times on the Enduros. Okay, we're right at the edge there, so I'm going to go in the width of my blade there, which is 0.087. And now swap that over to millimeters, and we'll go over 1 millimeter. Right there. Okay, that should be it. Can get our little catcher down here. All right, there's one. And there's two. And I got 5 out of that. Okay, thank you guys. Okay, we're down to trying to finish up this side case. And first thing we need to do is remove this cover. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to get my impact. Oh, there it came. Normally these have got Loctite on them. So we need to pull this off, and remember that some of this stuff comes out in here. So I think some of these pins, yeah, these pins are removable. So watch how you orient the engine so that that doesn't happen. And we need to get this I don't know whether I'm going to be able to move that or not. I may have to put a shifter on it. Okay, had to get my shifter back on there. You've got to adjust this, your shifter mechanism, while it's it can't be in neutral or first or fifth, I think. You've got to have 2 pins, and what we're looking for here is to make sure this gap is the same or pretty close on both sides. And you know, this one looks real good, so I'm just going to call that okay. And what you would do if it wasn't is you've got to this thing's got a mind of its own, sorry guys. You've got to adjust right here. This is an eccentric, and it will move it one way or the other. And I did notice that the nut there's a nut behind it there, and it was loose. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten that at this time. You don't normally have trouble with these backing off, but I have seen it. So if you have trouble like that, you want to put a little blue Loctite on the nut. I think that's good. So you can see there that we have approximately the same gap right there on both sides of the pins. So we're just going to call that okay and move on. Okay, so let's get our cover back on, and let's get some blue Loctite on that. And this just kind of goes over the top of those pins there. So that's kind of back where we were there. I think if we go the other way, that should be neutral, I believe. Yeah, it's not turning on at the counter shaft, so I believe that's it. And I guess we're ready. We left this loose. And our orientation here, if I can't remember whether I said it before or not, is the hole needs to be out. So when you're putting that on, it needs to be out towards you, just like this. Okay, we've got our new pizza cutter. We've got our idler gear on. It's free. It's got the spring behind it. It's actually a spring washer and a washer. And our kickstart mechanism is in. So we're ready for the clutch basket. This is the one that we kind of worked on and made sure that it was had less of groove in it than we had to start with. It'll lubricate the bushing. And let's put this kind of straight up where we've got these cogs up. That way we can kind of orient the clutch the same way. And it turned a little bit, so let's move it that way. There it goes. Okay. So we're down. You see this bushing sticking up a little bit. You want your big washer. This and this, if you order it, you get both of these pieces together. So sometimes folks will look in the illustrated parts breakdown and just see one piece there, and that's what you're seeing is just one piece like that. But you've got the big washer that looks like the bearing, but isn't a bearing, of course. And then you've got the thrust bearing. And it goes over that, and it basically, you're almost flush with the outside. Not quite. The bushing's still a little proud. Then you take your last washer, and it goes on top of it. Just like that. So that's your thrust. All right. Let me get my plates all ready and we'll get started on the clutch. All right. Next thing we do is get our hub in there. And you've got the washer with the keeper on it there that's going to drop down into one of these little spots here. Well, I suppose maybe one of them will drop better than the other one. Let's see if we can. Oh, yeah, it's right here. This has got a step in it, so that's where it goes, right there. So instead of pushing on it and messing with it, just look for the easiest way. And then we'll put our nut on. Okay, I had to go get my plate here so I didn't make too much of a mess. And we need to go ahead and get this tightened up. And once we do that, we'll get that turned over. There we go. So let's go ahead and get our nut on the crankshaft tightened up. And that's using the same. And we're getting our penny here. Stick that underneath. Okay. Get your penny out. Save it for the next one. Okay guys, we're going to go ahead and start this clutch pack. And I just want to show you something in the book that's misleading. On this page here, it's telling us that we've got the rubber damper, and then a fiber clutch plate, and then a steel. And that's not correct. If you look at this one over here, we've got, right here it says clutch plate. And it points to this white one here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this one is right up against the hub here. And you'll figure that out if you start with a fiber plate and you get all the way out, you should have a steel plate. And what you will have is 2 steel plates. So the first one's got to go in there on the hub. Now if you go to your illustrated parts breakdown on the computer for Partzilla or something like that, they're going to tell you that you have 5 steel plates, 4 fiber plates, and 4 rubber cushions. And that's correct. But the placement here is the problem. And like I say, you will know that if you start with a fiber plate, you're going to end up with 2 of these left, and you only need 1. So the first one goes in just like that. And what I do, if you notice on these things, you've got a sharp edge and a rounded edge. I've never seen anywhere where it tells you which direction these go. It may, but I've never seen it. But what my thinking is I put the sharp edge up, and that way, if you have any problem with this hanging up on anything, which you shouldn't, but you might, that you can pull more with your lever than these springs maybe can, just letting everything settle back down. So I let the rounded edge towards the back, sharp edge towards the front. And, you know, that's just my thought on it. And it really shouldn't matter. I don't think it does, but that's what I do. Okay, now the first thing, I'm putting all new clutch fiber plates and springs in. The width of these are supposed to be 4 millimeter for a new one. And we're right there. Okay, your limit is 3.70. And if you're anywhere close to that, you should go ahead and install new ones. The springs also, they have a measurement, and they say 31.5. And this is a new one, and it's telling me it's 32. And I'm not squeezing it, you know, I'm just running it up here. So about 32. So your limit on these is 30.5. So if you're close to that, you need to pick up some new springs. Okay, so let's go ahead and pack this. Like I say, we need a steel back here. Then we're going to put in a fiber. A fiber, but we're going to put our rubber damper on here first. See, the damper goes inside of the fiber. Okay, so we've got our fiber on here. I've had these fibers soaking in oil overnight, so they should be fully absorbed. Next thing is put your next plate on, and again, just stay, no matter how you put them in, try to keep them all the same. I'd say that's the best thing to do. Then you put your next damper on, and another fiber plate, and just keep on going. Okay, got them all loaded, and I'm to the end here, and I have one steel plate left, and that's what I need right there. Okay, before we go too far, I'm going to take and just put a little lube on my plunger and put that in there. Put a little on it too. Take our cover, just like that. And that looks correct to me. Now you may notice that this bike has 4 friction plates instead of 5. Most of the bikes I work on have 5. I don't know for sure, but I assume that these were, the HS1 was actually 4.9 horsepower, even though it's a twin cylinder. And the YL100, which was a twin cylinder, 100 cc, was right at 10 or 10 and a half, something like that. And what they did to detune those was they put longer slides in the 90 so that you couldn't get wide open. So the slides would come up and stop before you could achieve wide open throttle. So what the hot setup in the day was to either cut them or find YL100 slides and install those. So I think the reason they're thinking 4 is enough is because of the limited horsepower. Anyway, that may or may not be true. I don't know, just a thought of mine. So I'm going to go ahead and install my new springs. So let me get that done. Okay, we've got all those started. Okay. And I always just give these a little tap. Very gently, just to make sure they're seated. You don't want to break anything. They're not really going anywhere. Okay, so I think we're ready for our cover. Let me get you repositioned here. Okay. If you remember, we were missing the washers here. So there's the one that goes behind the gear. There's our gear, and one that goes right here. I think everything's situated here now. We're tight here, we were tight here, and it was bent over. These are all secure. We've adjusted or checked our shift pawl, and we've got a new pizza cutter in there. The kicker is in. Pretty sure it's going to work. I can get that real quick and just see if it's going to engage. Yep. Okay. So we're good there. So let me get prepped. Okay, I've got my gasket on. I've got it covered with grease. And I'm just going to put a little bit of oil in our new kick seal there. And everything else is all situated and as it should be here. So we'll go ahead, see if we can get it on there. Watch your lines. Those dowel pins. Yeah, there we go. Dowel pins kind of hold you back sometimes. Should be good there. Let me get some bolts in. Okay, got all our screws in. I'll go around and give them all a tap with the impact. And let's see here. Yep, everything's turning, so that's good. So I'll go ahead and tap these in with the impact, and then we'll turn it around. Probably get the magneto side on. Okay, we've got it turned around here, and we need to get our clutch ball in there. So that's in. And I'll just put a little bit of grease on the ball end there. And it'll grease up that seal nice too. And we've got a key. Like right there. And we get our rotor on. And I think that the bolt will go on after. So we've got the little pin right in here, and it's going to go right here. Got a piece of metal there or something. Okay, let's see if we can get that lined up. There it is. And get our point lobe here. And we've got a little piece on the rotor. Let me see if I can get you a little closer here. Okay, I think you can see it right here at the top on the inside there. That's what we're going to line up this slot with. Oh boy, sorry guys. Tripods, or the camera is sliding down here. So I'm going to see if I can do that without doing anything with the points here. I think if I can just kind of get it in there. Yeah, okay. That was far easier than I thought. And I guess I should go ahead and try to get my screws started. This is a lot cleaner ignition setup than the one on the, like the AT1 and stuff. We can get our stator all tightened up here, the 2 bolts. And like I say, it's lined up with the pin. Okay. And I just want to take a peek up in there. Yep, I can see the alignment key basically there that holds it on. So we'll get our bolt in there. Okay. And we've got this little cover here that goes over this. And just kind of, instead of that old white plastic thing, we've got it actually seals, this thing does. So all that's in there. We've got this little gizmo here. I'm going to have to get you on the other side. Okay, it kind of goes, you've got a little bump here. So it just slides in there like that. And we still need to do something here, but I'm going to wait until I get a new sprocket. So I'm not worried about that at this point. So I think we're just, well, we've got our detent and stuff up here. Let's get that tightened up. Okay. So I think we're good. That was from the oil from the putting the clutch in, I think. Everything looks good here. Okay, I put the cover on over here just to protect those plastic lines. And I've got to get some new screws for those. Those are something I don't keep around. I think they're 4 by 10. And they're just kind of a size I don't use very often. I'm going to clean this breather up, and I cleaned the hole up here. You can see that it's shrunk a lot. It just doesn't fit well. So by cleaning that up, I'll just put some RTV on it, and we'll hope that it'll stay put. Just like that. I really doubt if I could find one of those. So we'll hope for the best. I think that's just about all we can do. I've got one dowel that I can put in. I've got to find another one. Sure, that won't be too difficult. But I think we're all set. I would put the Kickstarter on, but it had some rust on it, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in the Metal Rescue and let that get cleaned off, and then we'll go ahead and put that on. And I think I might have a new rubber for it, so we'll see what I've got in my box of goodies. Okay, I think we're done as far as we can go right now. I'll go ahead and get my plugs back in here so I don't get a bunch of dirt in there. Got our lines all run here. We've just got to run our end from the tank to the pump line. And we had it running before, so I'm not going to mess with anything here yet. We can't anyway. We need to get our cylinders on. But it was running, so what I'll do is just go ahead and set it up this way when we first do the start, and that way we won't have to go through a bunch of stuff to see if we're to see if it's going to run, because it should run. It ran before, it was just loud. All the bearings out. All new bearings. We should be good to go. This has been a trip. Okay guys, here's the bearing that was in there, one of them. Oh, they locked up. Those were rough. Mostly just rust. Dry. I think this, well, I know it did. The pump was broken, if you remember right. So it ran out of oil. The rust didn't get this, not at first anyway. It was running out of oil. So we've got not a new pump, but another pump. So we'll make sure we get it all purged and see if it's going to work, and go from there. Okay guys, the next part of this puzzle's right here. We've got to bore and fit new pistons, and I think I've got a plan. I normally do these small cylinders on the lathe. I have got a plan to try to do it on the milling machine with a boring bar. I won't be able to use the type of boring head. Well, I use the head probably, but it's the head itself, of course, is not going to go in the cylinders, so it's got to remain outside. I'm going to try to use my 3/4 inch boring bar, or boring head, I'm sorry, my 3-inch boring head on the inboard hole with a 3/4 inch boring bar that will go completely through here. That way it'll give me a lot of rigidity that I wouldn't have otherwise. If I can't do that, then I'll go back to the 2-inch boring head, and use a 1/2 inch boring bar. But I'm going to see what I can do here on this one. These are smaller than any that I've ever done. I don't think you're going to find any smaller than these. These are right up there with weed eaters. So we'll see what we can do. But I tell you, this HS1 has been a trip, and not always a fun one. And of course, we're not done yet. Okay guys, there you have it. Bottom end of the HS1 90cc twin Yamaha is back together. Hoping for the best. Never messed with one of these before, and it's been 40-50 years since I did a twin. So we'll see how this works out. These are probably a lot easier than the ones that are pressed together. This one is pressed together as far as the crankshaft goes, but it doesn't have this one has the splines, so you really can't mess up the orientation of it. like you could when you've just got smooth pins that you're pressing. So I'm thankful for that, because I don't know whether I could do one of those press twins or not. It's just been so long, and I just really don't want to do it, to tell you the truth. But anyhow, we've got cylinders to bore, and I've got to do some research and try to figure out if I can do this. I'll do some mocking up and see where we're at on that. But if you would, subscribe, thumbs up, and I sure appreciate you guys, every one of you, going along on the ride, and we'll see you next video.